Thank you, Philip. Good afternoon to everyone. I'm happy to be here with you, all of you today. Unfortunately, due to yesterday's strike, some people were not able to make it. But on the lighter note, I'm also glad to be here in a person. I can share with you, my team was considering sending the hologram instead of me here. And I was very happy that my engineers were too busy to do it. And I hope they will stay as busy also in the future, that we will be able to have, let's say, this conference in such a great environment year after year, face to face, discussing our challenges and over a good cup of coffee as well. I also want to welcome other participants who couldn't make into Brussels and are joining us online. It's great that technology allows us to connect and engage in this way. This year's 13th BEREC Stakeholder Forum is taking place in this modern Congress Center, which in many ways reflects how the new technologies are shaping our digital markets and enabling advanced services for all of us. At the start, let me remind us all why we are here today, to discuss BEREC's work, exchange views and ideas, and strengthen our collaboration. This morning, we held the traditional meet and greet meetings with our co-chairs from BEREC's 12 groups with stakeholders. Each year, this part of the event proves more and more how essential and valuable is collaboration and has become for both BEREC and its stakeholders. By working together, we can achieve our shared goal, an advanced, user-friendly, and ultra-fast digital market. The co-chairs of the BEREC working groups are the STEAM of our organization. They are putting a lot of work and a lot of efforts into making sure that we deliver on our work program year after year. As the incoming chair, together with my ACOS team, the BEREC co-chairs, BEREC members, NRAs, the BEREC office, of course, with your valuable inputs, we must prepare a well-balanced and relevant work program. Over the next few minutes, I will walk you through where we stand, what we achieved so far, and the next steps on the way to finalizing the program by December this year. So let's start with the presentation. We started with our work program preparation already back in January this year, when we sent the Outline work program to the EU institutions, to the Parliament, to the Commission, to the Council, and we are expecting their feedback. The 4 objectives of the European Electronic Communication Code remain the foundation and the guiding force for the BEREC's annual work program. Considering recent and expected sectoral developments, strategic priorities will adapt to the new midterm BEREC strategy that will respond to the emerging challenges by focusing on promoting full connectivity, supporting competitive and open digital markets, empowering the end users, and contributing to sustainable, secure, and resilient networks and services. We will strive this year for a bit lighter workload on optional items due to the ad hoc activities envisaged for the 2026. Mandatory tasks that BEREC carries out on an ongoing basis derive mostly from EU legislation: the Code, Open Internet, and roaming regulation. As an example, last week we published the public consultation draft update of the BEREC guidelines on a very high capacity networks. BEREC is also part of the high-level group for the DMA, and most recently we provided to the Commission opinion on Meta's draft reference to facilitate WhatsApp interoperability under the Article 7 of the Digital Market Act. We do the international and institutional cooperation, which is in this new and fast-changing geopolitical situation becoming extremely important. For BEREC, just as important is to develop and strengthen relations with the regulatory authorities around the globe. The next category are so-called carryovers. These projects started already or will start this year and will be finalized in the year 2026. In 2026, we have six such PRDs, so we call them, in 5 BEREC working groups. As I said earlier, we don't start with a blank piece of paper. In the draft outline, we include also a number of recurring projects that we think they are helpful. They are not obligatory, but they are contributing to harmonization and better functioning of the European internal market. To mention, for example, the regulatory accounting in practice report and calculation of WACC parameters and so on. In addition to the items I described so far, we have a section of items that will be considered for the work program 26 and beyond as a candidates. This list is illustrative and does not intend to be exhaustive or final. We will consider them together with your valuable input provided in the different consultation phases. And the last category of items are those that we know that they will come up, but we don't know exactly how big they will be. The DNA proposal, for instance, will probably require us to comment next year. Same is expected for the revision of the European Electronic Communication Code. For all these tasks, we need to reserve some time, some space, just as well as for other things that will pop up unexpectedly. And we don't know yet that we will need to deal with. We have a good expression for them. They are unknown unknowns. On this slide, you can see where we are currently in timeline. We are gathering our internal inputs and your contributions. After that, we will start aligning the program with our draft BEREC strategy, which will rise in a parallel. Once we get your comments and suggestions, we will use the 3 BEREC strategic objectives and priorities to evaluate them. And this is that proposal should promote either full connectivity or support sustainable and open digital markets or empower the end users. The public consultation will take place in October, and the final adoption of the document is planned for December. At the end, I would like to invite you once again to send your input. When you send your suggestions, please use the format that we have suggested in the BEREC website. Please give us the title, what strategic priority your proposal is linked to, and a short description. You can even suggest the format, be it a workshop or report, or you see the need for guidelines. Your ideas are very important to us. Please send them all in before the April 10th. You can help us and understand different positions on the future development. This is very important. And equally important, give us suggestions for possible improvements that are very welcome too. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marko. I'm now delighted to welcome on stage Robert Mourik, BEREC Chair and ComReg Commissioner. Please, Robert. But now the ball is in your camp, so we expect questions from the room. I know a number of people we know have promised question. Okay. Oh, Ben from Connect Europe. Go ahead, Ben.
Thanks a lot. My question regards the DNA, which will be, I think, the main file on everyone's lips this year. And I would be interested to know, what does BEREC see as the 3 main priorities within the scope of the DNA, which will be necessary to achieve the digital decade targets, also taking into consideration the massive investment needs that are required in order to meet them?
Depends what Roberto will say, Ben.
Next, this one. Yeah, take it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. A question of general interest, I would say. Who wants to? Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. I think the 3 main priorities is we need to stimulate the competition. This is let's say, these are the basics of the BEREC. The change the regulatory scope to deal with new softwareized networks. We all know that the environment is changing, that the networks are more and more software-defined, are moving to the software-defined space. And we need to have, let's say, efficient tools to, let's say, be able to deal with it. And the third one is effective agile tools, also to stimulate the demand side. These, I think, are the 3 main, let's say, topics needs to be covered.
Do you want to add to that, Rob? Or?
No, you can't summarize it in 3 topics. It was a bit unfair, but I think competition, as Marko said, will always remain at the top of our objectives, because that is how you achieve so many other things in this world. And it's not as if just because we move ahead in time that the threat of abuse of dominance is going. So the competition remains the top one. We have to adapt to a new framework, to a new technology. We need to rethink our ways, because copper is going and we get fiber, we get different products. And then finally, we're building all these beautiful networks. We are seeing fiber everywhere, but the real benefit of it only happens when users start to use it. So we also need to, I think, pay a bit more attention, although that is not something that we've traditionally done. We have to be able to get users to migrate to fiber in order to actually get the benefits.
After Connect Europe, Pinar from ECTA. You see how well organized it is here, you know? Thank you, Pinar.
Incredibly fair. Thank you, Philip. When we look today at the regulatory measures in place for the fixed networks and services market in Europe, we see that for most of the NRAs, the market one still remains regulated. So only 4 of them have been totally abstained from regulating the market. And from those, if you look at a bit closer to the recent developments, the Romanian NRA has opened a public consultation whereby they are proposing to re-regulate part of the market. Then we have, if you look at the Bulgarian NRA, they have defined, engaged in the defining physical infrastructure access markets. Then we have the Dutch NRA that, in fact, they have accepted binding commitments in lieu of SMP regulation, so it's not a real total deregulation. And we have Austrian case that, humbly, we said that, in our opinion, in ECTA's opinion, there were no conditions to deregulate. When we look at Market 2, we see that to a lesser extent, but still 16 NRAs are regulating the market. And when we look, the NRA's methods in order to make the market analysis are clearly sophisticated. They are based on evidences and sound data analysis. So how do you reconcile the Commission's proposal in the white paper to either cancel all the relevant markets from the recommendation or to foresee only a physical infrastructure access market but with lighter regulatory measures? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Who shall take this? Yeah, you take it.
Okay, I think the competition itself, I'm afraid, won't be enough just to guarantee for enabling, you mentioned, access on the wholesale level, especially if I look into, let's say, my country on the rural areas. Access regulation and pricing for access will in some way most likely need to be controlled. I'm not saying that the regime we have, SMP regime, is the only way and the only right way to do this. Might be also the other approaches just as efficient, and some NRAs, like you mentioned, have been innovating, if I may use this term here already, and testing other solutions. There are still measures if we deregulate some markets, which in my opinion is very good, especially now where we are entering preparation phase for a new legislation.
Yeah, if I can add to that, I think BEREC is very clear. We want to keep ex-ante regulation and we want the SMP regime, but the legislation for the last 25 years may still be needed for a while, but is not the legislation that we probably need for the next 25 years. So we're also thinking about how does the regulation and the access regulation need to change. And one of the things that I can see is that we would love to deregulate where possible, but we then want to have the tools to intervene quickly when certain things go wrong. So what the Commission is going to do, you will have to ask the Commission, but I think our wish list is fairly clear.
Thank you. Thank you, Rob. I don't know how you do it, guys, but I could see Marit nodding in answer to your first question, and Pinar is nodding to what you say. So I don't know how you please everybody like that. You know? But Dean Bubley.
Hi there. Thank you. Do we need, in your view, to revisit some of our assumptions about usage of networks, and particularly the forecasts for traffic growth, both on fixed but especially mobile, which seem to underpin a lot of the policy direction on investment, on spectrum, on all sorts of things, because it now looks as if data demand is flattening, particularly in mobile, while technology such as AI is actually leading to increased efficiencies, for example, in use of networks or capacity. So we might actually end up in a position of overcapacity. Do we need to be careful in some cases not to create an environment where we end up mandating more overcapacity if that scenario does come to pass?
Mm. Thank you. Thank you, Dean.
Yeah, capacity is quite lumpy, and not in the mobile sector, but in fixed, it is quite lumpy in terms of how you prepare the network for that. So we are making a step change at the moment from copper to fiber, and with that you kind of get a very good upgrade path. and whether the traffic growth is 100 or whether it's 200, the network is capable of dealing with that. On mobile, it's a bit different, but let me say, I hear so many contradicting things about traffic growth. Yes, it is plateauing a little bit at the moment, I think, but I also hear from certain parts of industry that with AI and the use of AI by consumers, that traffic growth can go further up. So it cuts both ways, Dean, and we will see. I think with fiber, we are investing in a very future-proof technology. We would have to go there anyway, and with 5G, you can kind of build the capacity as it comes, so we're okay.
Thank you, Dean. Let's go to Eve here on the second row. Lady, a mic here on the second row. And then we'll go to Aurélie. After that, we'll need a mic. Can you just bring a phone here on the second row? That's, yeah, okay. So, okay, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, my question is, you people speaking about competition. But the matter is, the MNOs in Europe tried to kill the MVNOs. In Netherlands, if you check last 5 to 10 years, 50% of MVNOs stopped because of the power misuse of the MNOs. MNOs don't give access the right wholesale price, but the regulatory, they can do nothing. They sitting and watching, and MNOs close the MVNOs or pushing out the market. And in the news, 50% of the Netherlands MVNOs stopped, and the rest are also going to stop. But now, we are under the market coming Chinese mobile in, because there's no low-budget MVNOs, but because via the EU regulation, people coming from.
Thank you. No,
yeah.
I think we've got your point. So,
shall I?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
I can't answer specifically to that case. Annemarie in the audience may, but as a regulator, how we deal with that is very simple. If an MVNO gets bought by an MNO, you have normal kind of competition analysis, merger analysis, to see if the market is still competitive enough after that merger. And as a regulator, therefore, you form yourself an opinion about whether the competition after a merger or after a consolidation is still okay. You try to let the market rule itself or deal with itself as much as possible. You're not going to intervene continuously, only when it's a real danger to the market. For example, if you're going to get from 3 mobile operators to 2 mobile operators, I think the authorities will intervene. But on the upward trend or in between, I think you will have to make a careful judgment of what the market is doing. Mm-hmm.
No, let's leave it like. Thank you, sir. You can continue at the coffee break if you wish. Yves, and then we will need a mic on the top for Aurélie. Like you can climb the stairs. Over to you, Yves.
Thank you. I'm Yves Blondel of TREG's specialist in telecom regulation. BEREC was founded 15 years ago. You're not seeming to be celebrating that very explicitly, but okay.
Wait for the drinks.
Yeah, I'd really like to ask you, which are the achievements of BEREC that you're most proud of in your capacity as chairman and incoming chairman? But
it all happened this year.
Yeah,
you know?
but maybe to be a bit more precise, I think also as an individual head of an NRA for some years, like what's your perspective on what has BEREC done for you? How has BEREC helped you to achieve certain things? And I'm thinking, of course, of the subtext of harmonization, best practices, common positions, and such elements. So if you could give concrete examples of that, that would be nice. And then perhaps, the contributions going forward, like what BEREC can contribute to the framework if it changes to our environment, to our telecom sector. I think we all know that big legislative changes seem to be on the horizon, so what can BEREC do in that light and in the longer future?
If I were to answer that, I think what I'm quite proud or very proud of is that we've built a very professional organization and group of regulators that is willing to stand up for its principles and is willing, despite all the political going-ons, we look at the facts, we, without fear or favor, make decisions, also against each other if that is necessary. You ask for specific things, Article 7 or Article 32, those processes, I think, give you ample possibilities to see how we go about that. And sometimes we vote in favor of the Commission, sometimes we vote in favor of an individual NRA, depending on the facts. And if we have not feared to pick a fight with the Commission, for example, in the case of fair share, when we thought that was necessary. So I think exerting our right as an independent body is, I think, the thing that I'm most proud of. What you don't see is on a daily basis how BEREC in the background supports, how we support each other. You may not know this, but we kind of have a network where we ask each other on a daily basis questions. How do you do this? How do you do that as a regulator? And there is an enormous amount of harmonization going, stemming from that by us just asking our colleagues who have already dealt with a certain topic or who have a certain market situation that is the same as yours, how they dealt with a particular problem. And that is a kind of a daily form of collegiality that is actually very important, I think, for the harmonization in Europe that we're about to do just on a daily basis.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's go to Aurélie from Vantage Tower, then to Anna.
Hi.
Please catch my eye if you want to ask a question. Oh, yes. Yeah, Alessandro.
Thank you. My question would be about the Gigabit Infrastructure Act. Just to set the context first, there are a lot of progress on connectivity, of course, but there are still a lot of white spots, especially for rural areas and also alongside transport corridors. And as a tower company, one of the bottlenecks that we see is also the lack of timely and reliable access to energy connection, to grid connection. The delays, they can range for lack of priority for mobile communication or lengthy permitting, which are not harmonized at all. And that's precisely the question of permit that I would like to address. So the GI is now there. There are a lot of progress for the permitting, but the GI doesn't address the permitting for energy to have access to the grid. So I'm wondering how BEREC will see its role in ensuring that the progress of the GIA regarding the building permitting are not undermined by the fact that there is a very slow access to energy. And the follow-up question on this would be whether there are some interaction between the regulators, BEREC and the energy regulator. Thank you.
Thank you, Aurélie. Sounds useful to have energy at the side of a base station.
To share with you, majority of BEREC's NRA does not have jurisdictions on the energy regulation. This does not mean that we are not dealing with this issue. Some of us already tackled similar, let's say, questions, and are working also to put both networks together to correlate the, let's say, dependencies between those two networks, which is very important. for that telecommunication networks is working properly, the energy is the first one needs to be there. We see, as you mentioned, some synergies in contact with Acer. This is the EU Agency for the Energy, to discuss the challenge, and only by working together, I think both sectors could find the effective solution to speed up this.
Yeah, I think you mentioned something that is very relevant in the sense that we have the energy sector and energy regulation and the energy regulator on the one hand, and we have ourselves, and we will have to work more and more closely together, that is clear, because we had a storm not too long ago, the electricity went out, and that is why the telecom networks also suffered and in many cases went out. So the cooperation between the energy regulators and the energy regulation and that of telecoms will have to deepen and increase.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you very much. Anna from Bouygues Telecom, then we'll go to Alessandro. I'll need a mic on the 8th row.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. So my question deals with the access regulation. And I would like to know, to have your assessment on several points. So in a time of simplification, we keep hearing about more and more about symmetric regulation, which recovers several meanings within GIA, which is completely different from the code symmetric meaning in the Article 61. So I would like to know what is your assessment of symmetric regulation and whether you consider that symmetric and SMP regulation are complementary.
There are a couple of things that I want to say. First of all, the thing that we'd like to do most, of course, is that we see market circumstances that are competitive where we don't need any regulation. That is kind of the ideal, and whether we reach that or not is a second thing, either asymmetric or symmetric. But I actually think, given the way the market is developing, we probably see a more, an increased relevance of symmetric regulation in the future, in the sense that in the past we had one monopolistic network and we tried to make the market competitive. So you had to regulate a single party in most cases to bring that competition about. What we now see is that that market has changed and we see multiple fiber networks in the country, and ideally, of course, they compete and you don't need regulation. But I do think that given that trend of multiple networks, not everywhere, I'm not saying that it is the same in every country, but I think that that trend of having multiple fiber networks, sometimes overlapping, sometimes not, that is increasing the need perhaps of symmetric regulation, and especially when you also look at how the GIA is working and how the importance of infrastructure access is growing. That is kind of more symmetric in nature as well. So that's how I would answer at a very high level your question.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Rob. Alessandro from MVNO Europe.
Hi, everybody. Robert, we are less than 3 months from the roaming regulation review, the first one after 2022. I hope we will have more information maybe from the Commission later today. As MVNOs, you know very well, we advocated for reduction of wholesale roaming caps to avert increasingly negative margins. And when it comes to IoT, which today is a very important topic, we have asked regulatory clarification in that field to empower this technology. So my question is, what's BEREC position on this? What you would like to expect from the roaming regulation review? Thank you.
Good. Okay. Well, you should check your email because yesterday, late yesterday, I signed our BEREC opinion for the roaming regulation. So there is we have published, or we are about to publish, our opinion on that, and that will reveal everything in far more detail than I can say. Yeah.
Thank you, Rob. That's a pointed response. Time for one. Maria Teresa. Thank you. Time for one more question. I think that's it. Maria Teresa, CCIA.
Thank you. So, according to the Commission's white paper, the review of the European Electronic Communications Code could see an extension of its scope to new actors, digital players. Do you see a market failure or a problem in how things work currently that would justify this extension of the scope?
Is that a response? Okay. Is that a response?
No, that is a very difficult question to ask, because we are telecom regulators and we don't necessarily know all the ins and outs of other markets. So that's first of all something for the Commission to decide. And when the Commission thinks about the extension of scope, they also need to look at all the other legislation, the more horizontal legislation that has come out, like the DMA is there. We have the AI Act, the Data Act. There is a kind of a web or a mismatch of regulation at the moment. And what we have said as BEREC to the Commission is that what we prefer is that the Commission deals with things in horizontal legislation, if there is specific legislation, first, and only puts in the DNA where there is a specific communication sector need for it. So I could give you some examples. The one that springs to mind at the moment, which is absolutely not what you have in mind, but is, for example, with consumer, on the consumer legislation side, the issue of accessibility. There is a European Accessibility Act, and then there are provisions on accessibility in the DNA or in the code. There are lots of examples like that where there is a kind of a special telecom flavor in the code, whereas there is also horizontal legislation. And what we have said is put as much in horizontal legislation as possible and only put something in the code or in the DNA if there is a specific need for it. And with regard to the extension of scope, exactly the same applies. We would not, as BEREC, we would not propose to put something in there that is already taken care of by competition law or by other specific regulation or directive.
Thank you, Rob. That will be the final word. Please join me in thanking Rob and Marko for these answers. Thank you.